All right? So let's talk about the types of audits that might have criminal exposure. First of all, there's 3 different types of audits. There's a correspondence audit, an office audit, or a field audit. In a correspondence audit, they just ask you to mail in proof. It's done at a distance. Those are usually low risk. In an office audit, they want to have you come in person, and if you own a business, bring all the records for that business, and they go through line by line on that return, and if they find problems with that return, they're going to open up other years, and there's always the potential that they find a pattern of behavior that says, hey, you're cheating on your returns, you're not just an idiot that did a bad job preparing those returns. All right, let's get into more scary forms of audits. There's something called an eggshell audit, which I deal with probably 30% of the time. An eggshell audit is where there's a pattern of behavior in your return filings where you've been understating taxable income either by hiding income sources, overstating deductions, claiming personal expenses as business expenses, claiming credits you're not entitled to. Bottom line is the government's not getting paid the proper amount of tax. If the government knew you were doing this with willful intent, they could criminally prosecute you. Here's an even scarier version of an audit most people haven't heard of unless you're trained in criminal tax defense like I am. It's called a reverse eggshell. This is where there's a parallel and simultaneous civil and criminal investigation going on at the same time, and it's disguised as a clandestine civil audit. So your preparer will have no idea that's going on, you'll have no idea this is going on. Someone at the IRS suspects fraud, usually out of an abusive transaction unit. They'll send in an auditor who may or may not know the full story, but they have directions to look for certain things, and what they're looking for are called badges of fraud, and we'll get into that. What makes these audits so dangerous is that the government's using them more and more and more because they're so effective. Imagine the 2 ways they could criminally investigate somebody. Up front, using the Criminal Investigation Division. Well, the way that usually works is they do it in the background. You don't even know what's going on. After 2 years, after they have all the answers to all their questions, after they have all the proof that fraud has occurred, they approach you usually at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're walking out to your car to go to work. You're half asleep with soot in your eyes, and they'll have 6 years of tax returns in one hand, and they'll tell you something like, hey, if you just talk to me, I'm sure we can clear up any misconceptions, and I'm sure that's just a misunderstanding. Let's talk about why these returns are off. And oh, by the way, let's read you your Miranda rights first, so I can use this in a criminal investigation against you. Miranda rights will say something like, you have the right to an attorney before you talk to me, and most people, the headlights will come on and they'll just end the conversation right there saying, you know what, I'd like my attorney present. Well, if they bring you in for an audit and you don't know you're being criminally investigated, you're not likely to do that, and you're also very likely to bring the original preparer with you. Well, they love it when the original preparer is there because all they know is they have a fraudulent return in front of them. What they don't know is how much participation your preparer had in that. Did they aid and abet your criminal income tax evasion? Are they a partner in that crime? Or are they a potential victim of your behavior? Did you give them a cooked set of books, therefore a fraudulently understated return? Guess what? They're going to turn on you because they have to protect their own reputation so they can continue to earn a living, which means the very person you took with you is the one who's going to bury you. Okay, well, also preparers aren't trained in protecting your Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. In other words, I might tell you, you're better off in this situation, just have nothing to say. Claim the Fifth. They're not trained in that. Or they're not trained in the Fourth Amendment privilege against unreasonable searches and seizures. What documents do you have to produce? What documents do you not have to produce? Well, why does the Criminal Investigation Division or the IRS prosecute in the first place? Well, they do it for the deterrent effect. If they stick someone in jail for tax fraud, it tends to make others not want to commit tax fraud. The scariest fact of all is that if the IRS Criminal Investigation Division targets you, they have a 90% conviction rate.